Thank you for listening to Chakras and Cuss Words. This podcast has been brought to you by Anchor. Anchor has sponsored, distributed, and helped me create a good podcast to you. So if you have been thinking about making your own podcast, I suggest you use Anchor. It's easy to use and it's free. So go ahead, create your podcast, and I can't wait to hear it. Thank you for listening. Welcome to Chakras and Cuss Words, a podcast that dives into self-improvement, completing goals, and overcoming modern-day obstacles. I am your host, Catherine, and together we will address our fears, establish self-awareness, and complete self-growth through honesty and reflection. Remember to please like and share this podcast. Thank you. Everybody, and welcome to Chakras and Cuss Words. Today I have Brittney, who is a strategy maven, but today she's not talking about that. We're talking about a narcissistic boss and her experience with handling the situation and dealing with it and actually growing from it. So Brittney, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, Catherine. Thanks so much for having me. I've connected with you. It's been incredible to hear what you do, and I'm happy to be here and talking about this because whenever I went through this experience, I searched so much for stories or experiences with narcissism in a work environment, and I had a hard time finding a lot of content. Most of the content I found was relationship driven, which some of it still related, but there were still some gaps that I really looked for information on. So I was really excited when you reached out to me and or when I reached out to you about this topic.
Yeah, because I feel that there's a lot of people who might be working with narcissists. I mean, obviously, narcissists have to pay the bills too. So, what can you give us a little background in the story without like telling us too much? Kind of like, what were you doing? What was the job? How was the narcissist? Was he your boss? Was it a she? How did you guys work together?
Sure. So, I will assume everyone knows what narcissistic personality disorder is, or would you like me to go through like what it is
No,
first?
if you want to give everybody a little description of narcissism, go ahead and do that.
Okay, cool. So, narcissistic personality disorder, it's a mental disorder characterized by entitlement and self-centeredness and a constant need of adoration, a need for others. At the same time, people that suffer from narcissism usually have a low self-esteem and are very vulnerable to criticism themselves. They often experience problems in many areas of their own life as well. And working with one, it can be really, really difficult, just as anyone could imagine. And I've heard in some cases that people claim that it does take like a level of narcissism to be like a successful business owner. I'm not a therapist, so I don't know what the answer to that would be, or how I would offer feedback on that. But I can say working for one. So the one I worked for, my boss, I actually worked for two. So they were both my boss. They were both males. And I identify myself as a recovering codependent. And I say that because it predispositions me to like overlook certain symptoms of behavior if I'm not practicing boundaries. So at the time I met mine, I was not practicing boundaries. I was kind of looking for, I thought that this person was going to like propel in my career. There was a lot of like promises and hype in the beginning, and they call like the beginning stage like the love bombing stage. So that's whenever they're like super nice and they're doing all these great things for you. They're like listening, they're asking you all about yourself, and you think that it's to build a genuine relationship, but really what the reason why a narcissist does that is so that they can use that information later if they need it.
Yeah, they tend to use it against you. So they try to find out like what your weaknesses are, and basically how they can use it to their advantage. So that's very like narcissistic trait, especially in the beginning to give all the love bombing. When you obviously you said that, you feel that you have that codependent personality. When you
Hmm.
first started interacting with it through with your boss, did you think, oh my goodness, like this is such a leader? Because I do think that a lot of people who might have narcissistic traits but aren't necessarily narcissistic. Like, to be a narcissist, you have to be very, very egocentric and just
Hmm.
obviously have almost that Superman ideology where you're like,
Yes.
yes, like I'm God. We
Yes.
say in the medical field, we call them surgeons. No. But
That's
um
a good one.
surgeons tend to have that. I mean, a lot from, I haven't worked with many surgeons, but you hear it a lot from OR nurses that surgeons think they're gods. Most of the surgeons are very narcissistic and have that trait. I work in the emergency room. The emergency room nurses, I don't feel the same about the emergency room docs versus the OR nurses with
Hmm.
the surgeons. And I think because they have that whole team approach, because the emergency room is very chaotic and it could go haywire very easily. So everybody has to kind of support each other. Where in when the OR in the operating room, it's a very controlled environment,
Hmm.
and it gives that one leader that power to
Hmm.
basically dictate what happens, and gives them a way to act. But that's just the rumor in the nursingville. But when you started working with this narcissistic person, were you like, oh my God, like they're an amazing leader? Or how did you first feel about them?
Yes, and I'm so glad you said what you said, Catherine, because I'll read little two sentences. Okay, so when I was searching for content to learn what was happening to me, or the situation, just to understand the situation better, I found a website called baronspsychology.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I like scheduled a meeting with this guy, the guy who wrote all about it on it. He's a licensed clinical psychologist. He offers so much great feedback. So the what you to a point to what you just said. So identifying with a few symptoms of narcissism does not mean you're a narcissist yourself. As a matter of fact, a lot of people benefit from NPD symptoms because it helps them maintain a positive
Mm-hmm.
self-image and motivate them in terms of achieving goals. However, if people identify too much with the NPD symptoms, it can become a problem.
Yeah.
If not for the narcissist himself, but the people surrounding the narcissist. So I'm really glad that you had said that. It doesn't necessarily, if someone has those characteristics, doesn't mean necessarily that they are one. Okay, so yes, when I first met, the narcissist in my life, um, I I would tell my husband all the time, I'm so grateful to have met these people. Like I feel so grateful. This is such an incredible connection, and I feel like things are falling into place. Like I felt very optimistic
Mm-hmm.
about it. I was very excited about it because it was still in that very much beginning stage of everything, and I hadn't yet seen behind the scenes how things really worked and all the things. Right, it takes time to see that firsthand. Um, and to the point of what you said, so later when I started to what happened was there was a lot of gaslighting happening and I felt crazy. I would have breakdowns. I was very confused because I what you will notice when you get into one of those toxic cycles with a narcissist, it always comes back around to you. So
Yeah.
I'm willing to look at myself. So I would always go back to myself. Yeah, that makes sense because it's easy for me to identify problems within myself.
Yeah.
Um, so it resonated with me, and I'd be like, yeah, I have all these problems. And so I was so overwhelmed. I was like, how something is something isn't adding up. I know I have these problems. Yeah, but like something isn't adding up. And after a while, when I did start to set up those boundaries and I started to like request certain things to be done a certain way for my boundaries, and they were denied, that is when I was able to see, and the reason why narcissists will do that is because it relinquishes their control over the situation. And that's a really good
Mm-hmm.
sign that that's happening, is whenever
Yeah.
you're not allowed to set your boundaries.
So you just brought up two really good terms that people talk about so you brought up the gaslighting. Can you kind of explain to people what gaslighting is? Because some people might not actually know that term, but may have actually encountered it or had it happen to them, but don't understand what that term is. Could you kind of give it a little description?
Yes. So I'll be a geek and just read the description, and I'll explain to
Yeah.
you like how it happened to me. So
Okay.
gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation in which a person or group covertly seeds the individual by making them question their own memory, their own perception, or their own judgment. So whenever I mentioned earlier that often when you get into a cycle with a narcissist, it comes back around to you, that's part of the gaslighting, and that's what would happen to me. So I would do my duties a specific way after being told to do them a specific way, but it would be told to me not in written form.
Just
So I would do
verbal.
those things, yeah, just verbal. So then I would do those things a certain way for extended time. And then all of a sudden, one day in a meeting, well, why are you doing things that way? And I'd be like, oh, well, that's what I was told to do when X, Y, and Z happened.
Mm-hmm.
I never said that. Why would that doesn't make any sense at all to me. I don't know where this came from. And it would, that would happen over and over again. And it was and I would be like, well, maybe I didn't, and, it'd make me
So
very unsure of myself. And I'd be like,
how
wow, maybe I didn't remember that right.
has has this changed your work practice a little bit?
Yes, I hate to say I have PTSD from it because I feel like there's so much worse things that have happened or that could
Yeah,
happen to other people, But
but
yeah,
that's
so
okay.
now,
Yeah.
yeah. And this is just part of my story and as a whole, and why I feel like I was a little bit more susceptible to this, which um, my business partner who's experienced this, it's super interesting because her and I have completely different backgrounds, but yet she still was
Mm-hmm.
in a similar situation. So it's very interesting. Um, I now, yes, I set boundaries way in the beginning of situations if I'm starting any type of contract with someone or working with anyone. Um, I also, if I notice that conversations change too quickly,
Mm-hmm.
like if moods change too quickly, I will not work with that person.
Yeah.
Um, Also require everything in writing. Um,
I like how you gave yourself the knowledge that now you have to require stuff in writing.
mhm,
So it's kind of like like the verbal order with doctors and nurses.
mhm,
If a doctor gives you a verbal order and let's say the order's fucked up and then you accidentally give too much of the medication and then
yeah,
he's going to say, no, I didn't give you that
mhm,
order.
mhm.
So definitely you have to have boundaries, and I like you to address that. At what point did you start to realize like, hey, this work environment is not healthy at all? Like after you started to see the gaslighting, was there more? Was there like, did it get really manipulative?
Yes, and it was when it started involving other people. Like it was both situations I was in, like because I had mentioned there were two different scenarios, were very small teams. And so when I have noticed in my experience when my narcissists have been in small teams, it's someone, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
There's always someone in the hot spot, in the hot seat.
Okay.
And so I would notice
Somebody's always in trouble.
yes, and they
Okay.
would involve me in some way,
You're
or
like, what?
or I would be the one in the hot seat. And so when I
Okay.
started noticing that, it was like a huge red
Right.
flag, because I would see firsthand like someone else going through something, and I was like, whoa. And when I got involved in it, like because there was a situation that was like, um, basically got information from me on someone, and the way that they got it from me, and then the way they used it, I was like way taken back, and I felt, it was just a horrible situation. It was terrible.
So they got personal information against you and basically used it against you. Kind of?
Yeah, but about
Okay.
someone else.
For someone else. Okay.
Yeah,
So it was almost like they were doing dirty work. Oh,
exactly.
that's a
They call it
horrible
flying
situation.
monkeys. It's like a term with this personality uh, disorder, is they use their flying monkeys, which are people who are very devout to them in their very close
Right.
circle, who will
Right.
participate.
Right. Because they're an amazing leader.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have that
Exactly.
God essence to them where people are drawn to them. And it's, which in all honesty, like I see some amazing leaders, and if they use those leadership skills in the right way, it's so beneficial. But when people use it to manipulate others and have no remorse or no empathy for the other person, that's when you really see the narcissistic personalities. And you're like, okay, this is maybe something's not right with this person. So when you were working in that environment and you started to see like this is getting really unhealthy, did you confront like other people like, hey, are you going through this too? Or is this just me? Or am I going crazy? Like, I'm sure there was multiple things flying through your head. Can you kind of give us a little situation on how you were feeling back when you started to feel like this isn't right?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So I started doing research. I started journaling a lot so that I could record, because I felt like I was crazy. And so as I
Okay.
started to journal, I started to recognize certain patterns. And so I started doing research on those patterns. And that's when I like discovered a little bit more about what this narcissism and gaslighting was. And that helped validate my experience, because it was like this website that I'd mentioned. It was as if he was like there, is how spot on what he wrote about was to my
Okay.
experience. So that really helped me know that I was not crazy.
Okay.
And I made an appointment with him, and I started kind of working with him on these scenarios, and that was the start of it.
Okay. So okay, so you started to say like this isn't right and started journaling. I really
Yes.
enjoy journaling for so many reasons because sometimes, and I think that's a lot of self-care, and it brings like a lot of self-awareness because at the time that we're feeling these emotions and we're feeling like kind of like what we're going through and we're like, whoa, this situation's intense. But then when we put it back and reflect on it and put it back on paper, it's like we can kind of dissect the event and say, this is what happened and this is how come it happened. How may have I been able to prevent it? Or maybe I couldn't have prevented it at all. So I'm really glad that you found journaling because that's a major game
Hmm.
changer when it comes to that. Um, and then how did you kind of like, did you talk to other people or were you just like, fuck this place, I'm getting out of here. It's time for me to quit. Like, how did,
I did. I don't I just want to tread lightly on that part of it, but yes,
yeah.
I reached out to other people. But yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
and
And
only say that because it may not be safe yet for me to talk more about that part of it.
yeah. And then when you decided to go your separate ways from the business, how do how do you think the narcissist handled it? Did you hear? Because usually, if it's a relationship, it can go very south. Like it's because,
Oh, it was terrible.
yeah, when they lose their control and they lose their ability to manipulate, it's like and it's not the person that they're missing. It's the control and the manipulation and just the negative. How did you have a really hard time leaving that company or that business or that relationship? Like when the
Yeah.
narcissist, okay. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, yeah. And you said something really important. You said that it's not the person they missed, it's the control.
Yeah.
And narcissist is something else on this website that really helped me is narcissists don't have friends. They see people in terms of useful versus non-useful,
Yeah.
threatening versus harmless. And so you're kind of treated as like a transaction or like
Yeah.
a tool to get them where they want to be. And so, yeah, when I started setting harder boundaries, because that's what I did. Whenever I started seeing the patterns, I worked with that therapist. I started setting harder boundaries, like not answering text messages right away, not answering calls after hours, things like that. I started requesting more written responses, things like that. I started doing immediately got like shut off and put in the cold seat. So like I was, excluded from conversations. You could tell like the tone had changed. And I was terrified because I knew that in the setting I was in, that I knew that there wasn't going to be a way to like to set boundaries and it work because it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going to work for that person. So I knew that an end was coming and I just didn't know how it was going to happen. And because the narcissist needs the control, in my mind, I was like, he's going to have to do it. He's going to have to let me go. That's going to have to be how it has to go. That's going to be the least friction I'll have. That'll be the
Yeah.
safest way for me to get out of here. So gratefully, that did happen. My grandfather passed away during COVID. He had cancer. He was in a nursing home. He passed
Mm-hmm.
away. And like many other people who had loved ones pass away, it was like a long time before you could get a funeral. We
Right.
had the funeral. I emailed. I was like, look, I'm not available this day. My grandpa's funeral. I made
Uh-huh.
sure everyone knew. Well, that
Right.
night, I got an email saying that, I can't believe you're not responding, or like, I can't remember what it said. It said something to the effect of like, my work has been declining for a long time and we need to
Oh,
talk about
wow.
it. And
Yeah.
so the next day was that conversation. And that's when it was like, uh, do you want to tell me what's going, do you want to talk about it? And I was like, no, because there's no talking about it. It's just a setup, So, I mean, of course I didn't want to, I knew that was my way out.
Yeah.
So it ended very well in that sense. The
Right.
anxiety leading up to it was really difficult. That's the terrible part, was just the anxiety leading up to how it was going to happen, because you're just scared. You're scared
Right.
working for that person. You're scared all the time. Am I doing something wrong? Am I going to get fussed at?
Mm-hmm.
All this stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a different dynamic versus like a love, like
Mm-hmm.
business and love. It's a different type of fear because you're fearful, like, am I going to mess up at work? Is this person going to be upset about something? Am I going to do one thing, where they don't like it? And am I going to get fired? So
Yeah.
it makes it very stressful. And then almost when it's a narcissistic boss, they don't use the love bombing where a narcissist in a relationship kind of has that cycle, and then when they
Mm-hmm.
see the other one is wanting to leave or
Mm-hmm.
is wanting to kind of get out of the relationship or is unhappy, they'll continue to throw some more affection their way just to kind of lever them back in one more time.
Right.
So with the boss, when it was time and you were like, this isn't working for me, did they try to throw in any additional love bombing, or were they just like, okay, it's time for her to go?
No, they were totally done with me, which
Yeah.
I was really grateful for. I feel like in that sense, it couldn't have went better, because it could have been a lot worse. I've seen other people's situation go a lot worse. So
Yeah.
I was really grateful for the way that mine had went. I mean, it sucks
Because you
that
were,
like
yeah.
it played
It,
off of my work ethic, but It is
Yeah.
what it is.
Right. And that's the thing with the boss too. When it's in a versus the relationship, when it's in the leadership role, and there's multiple people who are, like you said, they're dependents, or
Mhm.
they're enablers, or they're
Mhm.
monkeys, like you call them, flying
Mhm.
monkeys. You'll see that it's easier for them to just let go of that one person than to take down the whole, the tribe. Because if you're in there,
Yes.
if he continued to have you there, you would be unhappy. Other people would see
Mhm.
it,
Yes,
and
exactly.
you would be talking about it, where that's too much of a risk, you know.
You're spot
So,
on.
yeah.
Mhm.
So when you left and finally decided, this fucking job is ridiculous and this person is ridiculous, did that narcissist continue to build their business? Um, how have they been in
I
the,
think so.
yeah,
You
most
know
of
what's
them do.
funny? Yeah, yeah. Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, most of them do. They tend to build really good, quote unquote, businesses, or um, if they're in a multi-level marketing, it's usually the ones who are on top are
Mhm.
the most narcissistic, or have the most narcissistic traits, because they see everybody else as resources
Mhm.
and tools, which is very unfortunate, especially in the corporate world. It shouldn't be like that, but unfortunately it is. So I think it's really good that you're talking about it, because it's very common in team, like working situations and environments.
Mhm.
It happens a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
So,
really funny because I thought,
mhm,
when I was told I care about you, because I was told in the exit call, I just care about you. Yet I have not heard from that person since we parted ways.
right.
So
Yeah.
that's just a good, that again validates what was happening, that I wasn't
Right.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But at the time you felt like you might have been going fucking nuts, huh? You're like, oh,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
I was like, I am definitely batshit crazy. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everyone around me was agreeing with the narcissist at the time. So it made me feel even more crazy. I was like, how am I the only one? This is just so insane. Like it was
Yeah.
very stressful.
So you said that, and I I don't think you should minimize when you said that you feel that now you have PTSD, and you're like, but so many people with PTSD go through so much, And what people don't understand is you can have post traumatic stress disorder, and it can be from small encounters consistently. So
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be this major event that happened to you. And now you're like, whoa, I have PTSD because I had this major catastrophe. You can
Mhm.
have post traumatic stress from multiple incidents over time. So I'm sure you do have some PTSD because it had to structure your life, right? And now I'm sure you have
Mhm.
some anxiety when you are entering a
Mhm.
new workplace, or you're entering a new relationship with a boss, or a
Mhm.
relationship with a coworker, where you're kind of like more in tune to what could possibly happen because of what has happened to you before. At
Mhm.
at the time that you left and you started to repair, how did that look when you started to do your regrowth and repair what you just left? How did that look for you?
It was really difficult because the way that I was set up, I, I learned a lot during my time working for that boss. So that is again something I'm really grateful for, because I was able to take that experience and um, do what I meant to do in the first place, which was,
Hmm.
have my own entity. So, I always had my own entity, but I wasn't really like allowed or like given the opportunity to work within it, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So it was really difficult to like gain the confidence to do it on my own, because there was so much talk about me needing to be ready, like I wasn't ready, or like I wasn't at a place where I was seasoned enough to work with clients one-on-one and stuff like that. So I had to build a lot of confidence, and that's part of why I was really grateful to partner with my business partner now, because it did help with that. I didn't feel like I was doing it all alone.
Yeah.
So, and because she's so much different than me personality wise, it really helps me kind of check myself sometimes whenever I've got a situation that's triggering me or something. I'll kind of see how she's responding to it, and then I'll like be able to see, okay, that's my PTSD. My mind's going, in that whirlwind. It's
Right.
okay, so I'm really grateful for that. Not everyone has that opportunity, but that did help. But building my confidence back was difficult, and still is really difficult.
Right.
There's many times I still feel like I have imposter syndrome, in situations.
Yeah. And can you tell people what imposter syndrome is, just for the ones who are not really sure of the definitions?
Yeah, sure. So it's like basically feeling like you don't belong in a space that you have all the credentials to be there. I don't know if that's like the technical terms, probably
Yeah.
not, but yeah, like just feeling like someone's gonna find you out, and you're not who you say you are, type of thing. Um, I think
And,
that kind of
and I
makes me
think
feel
just
better.
also not having the validation of your worth, like being in, a certain job or a certain, like you're almost scared of the value that you do have or the
Yes,
achievements that you can receive. So
that's a
I think,
great yes.
yeah. So I think sometimes people, when they think imposter syndrome, um, it's like, am I really meant to do this? Am I really meant to achieve this? So it kind of puts you back and makes you a little bit fearful of the situation. I think when people see leaders, like there's all types of things that leaders and bosses do that we don't like, there's all kinds of shit my boss does that I don't
Right.
necessarily like, but they're a leader. That's their job title, is to lead us and give us direction. um but when it becomes manipulative and it becomes where the person's fearing to even go to work, and definitely feels like at any moment they could lose their job, that's a
Mhm.
very unhealthy environment.
Mhm.
And it doesn't make a strong leader, and it doesn't make a good leader. But so many, unfortunately, CEOs and people in upper management or people in upper leadership tend to do that. So it's something that I think if more people who are not in that higher up position is able to bring light to it, it will definitely make it where not so many managers or leaders will use that trait or use that format of leading. It's like I think I read a quote or like a meme or some shit, and it said like people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad managers.
Mhm.
And that's really what it is. Like
Mhm.
if you have a job that you enjoy and you're on this career path and it's somewhere you want to be, and then all of a sudden it either changed because leadership isn't doing their part, or the environment that you can do better.
Mhm.
So it the retention rate for people who are in a position has to stay where they want to stay there, because employees, most likely should be at that business where they want to retire or they want to grow. And if they don't want to do either one of those things, there's a problem in that organization.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's how I see it. Oh, Amy came on.
Yay!
Hi,
Hello.
Amy. Welcome. Amy, give us some background on you. And we were just wrapping up a little bit with Brittany's story. So I would love to hear your story about working with a narcissist.
Oh gosh. Okay. Um, Well,
Do a little introduction so everybody knows who you are, because you kind of hopped on in the middle as we were ending with Brittney. So this is perfect timing, actually.
Yeah.
okay, awesome. Well, hi everyone. My name is Amy. I am Brittney's business partner. We own a digital marketing agency called Strategy Maven. And so my experience with a narcissistic boss, I don't really want to give too much detail because this person is extremely Sue happy, and it's part of being a narcissist, I guess. I mean, this person will sue anyone that insults this person.
Right.
So,
Oh, Lord.
or find a way,
Don't sue Chakras and Cuss Words, honey.
Yeah,
because I'll sue your ass back. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or at least find ways to sue. So I'm not going to give too much detail, but I worked for this company for a long time, way too long. And I honestly didn't notice these things, or I didn't notice that this was narcissistic behavior until after I left.
Okay.
Because while you're in it, it's kind of like, things are wrong, and you know things aren't supposed to go that way, but I never pinned it to it being narcissism or that being a personality trait of this person. So, I mean, to this day, I'll be with Brittney and we'll have like PTSD.
Together, you guys are like,
yes. We'll like come across someone who has like similar personality traits, or we'll come across someone or a client or potential client that we're like, oh gosh, we cannot work with this person because they have these traits, and they like, we can just totally see this going bad. Like, we can easily spot it now, which is great.
Good. Yeah.
But anyways, that's my vague background.
So when you were in the position, because Brittney was talking about how she had a lot of like love bombing at first, did you have the same experience? Because she said hers was kind of different from yours. So obviously it wasn't the same boss. You guys were in different fields or different work environments.
Right. Yeah, correct. It wasn't the same boss. What do you mean by love bombing?
Like a lot of gratitude towards your way. So love bombing is basically giving you major compliments, re-ensuring that you are the right person for the job. They want to see you grow. They see your potential, but you can't tap into that potential unless you are with them. So
yes.
it's almost like a lot of affection.
1000%. I mean, to the point, I got raises so often that it was unreal. While I was there, and it was kind of a way, now that I'm looking back on it, I'm like, they kept raising my pay to make it super hard for me to leave.
Right.
And I know it. I know it now. At the time, I was like, yeah, this is so great. Like, yes, I'll put up with all the BS for more money. And that's why I stayed so long, is because they kept increasing my pay. And it was for the position, like, I would have never been able to find that pay anywhere else, working the same position in the same field. So it just made it super harder for me to leave. Harder for me to find something else. And, like, they were always like, they would tell me how great I was doing. And then, like, literally the next day, like, I'd get like yelled at or put down for something that I didn't do or didn't know that I needed to do, etc. So definitely a lot of love bombing.
Okay. And then when you were going through this, were you feeling like at first, when it first started, obviously you were happy because you were getting like lots of money and you're like, hey, hey girl, hey, I'm making all this money. But then were you like, okay, this job's kind of toxic? Like, how did you start to see the toxicity of this person in the work environment?
You know, now that I'm looking back, I should have seen it on the very first day.
Really? Wow.
Really, because the first day I remember I was replacing someone and she was training me, and literally this my boss came up to me and was like, this person just said that you are like a know-it-all, or that you are like yeah, like very first day. And it was like, me on my first day, I was just listening, I was asking questions. I obviously had no idea how the company ran, so I
Right.
wasn't overstepping or doing anything like that. And for him to say that, it was just like so bizarre to me. And like, that's when I should have known that he was creating a toxic work environment. And so many things happened after that I just kind of like put aside, because I was just like, oh, whatever, like this is how it is. It was just, yeah, I should have known from the first day. But when I really started to get ticked was probably about a year in. Because it was just happening so frequently. And at the time, I was like, there's no way like all this stuff just so happens to like be normal. Like, this is a pattern. It happens often. I come home every day like crying. Like,
So what was happening?
oh my gosh, so many things. Like, that was just one instance, but this person would constantly create like a toxic environment, like a he said, she said thing. Or he would so I was in upper management. He would make me feel like if I didn't tell him confidential information about someone that was under me, then I wasn't doing my job.
Oh, so he wanted you he wanted you to like snitch. He's like,
yes,
girl, give me the gossip. Right. So I can use it against him.
Yeah, he would put me in awkward situations, and situations that I wasn't comfortable in, but ultimately he was my boss, so I kind of had to do what he wanted me to do.
Right.
And it was just, I just knew, like, I was like, this is not normal. This is not healthy. This isn't healthy for me. It's not healthy for anyone that's under me. So yeah, so things like that.
When did you start to realize that this environment is really unhealthy and I gotta go? Like, you were in there for a few years, it sounds like. Were other people having problems, or did he just seek you out?
No, other people for sure.
Okay.
I was not the only one, and I won't be the last one
Right.
at all. I mean, there's people still there that I'm just like, oh gosh, like I am praying for you, child. Like, I can't even imagine.
See the light, honey. Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, like I said, after about a year, I knew, like, I was just like, this is not the place that I want to be. But like I said, it was so hard because they kept, love bombing me and giving me, like, every now and then they'd give me gratitude and then give me a raise. So it was just like, it was just such a weird situation to be in.
The golden handcuffs, that's that's what people call it when you're making a lot of money in a very toxic environment. So it's like, they're giving you money, but you feel like you're in prison. So it sucks. Definitely, I've seen it a lot in nursing, like when people are working in toxic environments, but for some reason the pay is just too good so they can't leave, or they're having the burnout. So they're kind of settling where they're at because the reality is that they hate to be there, but the money is keeping them there. And that's really, really not a good situation to be in. Just, going into work every day and hating it is absolutely horrible. I've heard stories of nurses saying that before they would go into work, they would get very anxious, start to get anxiety, or their stomach would turn. And they would feel like almost sick to their stomach having to go to work because the environment was extremely toxic for whatever reason. So,
Yeah. I mean, every day, to be honest, Catherine, that I was there, like I'd get that same feeling, like my stomach would turn, like, what did I do wrong today?
Right.
Was the feeling, or like, what am I going to get attacked for today? Or what did I miss today? Or what am I going to do today that this person's watching at home on their camera? Like,
wow, they had a camera?
Oh yeah. Cameras on us at all times.
Oh, wow. That's intense. And this was like an office setting or like a corporation?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have cameras in the emergency room, but that's, the hospital, that's because of safety issues mostly. And also to, if somebody fell, but, so we could see the situation, but, I don't really think it's, well, maybe it's for watching the employees too. Who knows?
Yeah. I remember, now that we're talking about this, there was one instance where for me, it was like one of the last straws. It should have been the last straw, but it wasn't.
It was close.
It was very close, but I stayed for probably about another year after. I had talked back or something along those lines, or I had like stood up for myself in some way. I don't remember exactly what the situation was, but I do remember that if I wanted to keep my job, I had to sign this paper or contract or whatever saying that what I said wasn't true and that I messed up. And that I basically would, at the time, they had like deducted my last raise.
You're like, we want that money back, girl.
Yeah, and I'm like, I should not have signed that because not everything I said was true.
Right.
And this is just another manipulation tactic because that's what they do. And but yeah, I did because again, like I was scared of losing my job and losing that income. So,
definitely. Yeah. That's crazy. So how did you leave? Was there like one incident where you're just like, I always tease people. Have you guys seen what is it called? Half Baked?
Actually.
You haven't? Who said yes? Did somebody say yeah? No?
Brittany, yeah. I don't remember much of it, but it was a long time ago. I did see it.
There's this one part. Okay, so basically it's Dave Chappelle, and it's a Dave Chappelle movie, and it's about basically smoking weed all day. It's an amazing movie. It's hilarious. And there's this one character called Julio, and he works at like, I don't know if it's like Burger King or someplace. He works at Burger King, and they're just fucking on him. And he's just about to be rich. Like his weed business is firing up. He's like ready to quit. So he grabs the drive-through microphone, and he's like, everybody like Burger King or whatever, fast food restaurant it is, the customers are there too. He grabs the microphone, he grabs it, and he goes, "Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Yeah.
You're cool. Fuck you. I'm out."
Honestly, it was kind of like that.
He drops the microphone and he just leaves. And I always tell like my husband, like when my husband like is getting ready to leave one job to another, and I said, "Are you going to do the Julio? Are you going to do the Julio?" And he's like, I might. I mean, it's just like legendary, I always say like, sometimes if I'm leaving a job and it was like a frustrating job or it was just a toxic environment, I'll just say, I might fucking Julio them fools. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But it is hilarious. But so what was your incident like when you just left?
Honestly, it was kind of like that.
Really?
Yeah, but it was so I don't know how much I should say. But
you can say whatever you're comfortable with. Yeah. I don't care. He could, if he wants to sue Chakras and Cuss Words, come for me, honey.
No, but really, this person is like so happy. Like
Right.
while I was there, I'm pretty sure he sued like everybody and their mother.
Yeah. And he probably wasted a lot of money.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Mhm.
It's just, again, narcissism. But
Right.
so to the point where even like I tried to talk him out of one of his lawsuits. But anyways, I was like, you know what? This is dumb. Like, what are you doing? He's like, no,
Yeah.
I can't let them win. I'm like, okay, whatever, dude. Like,
Yeah. Get some help.
But anyway, so my exit was pretty similar to that. It was through email, because we had like this long email thread going, and he was basically calling me a liar on something.
Were there other
And
people in the email as well? Or was it just you and him?
yeah, well, yes, it was just him and I, but I'm pretty sure he had other people, other eyes on the email as well.
Right.
So basically he had like, it was the last straw for me. He had said something that was like totally inappropriate and like totally out of line. And I was like, you know what? Like, this is it. Like, I'm totally done. And I submitted my 2 weeks, which they didn't accept, but it's okay.
They didn't accept. You can't quit us, girl. We quit you.
I know. You know what? After
Fucking assholes, right?
After I did that, they sent another email saying like, you know, we knew this wasn't working out anyways, and
oh,
blah blah. I was like, yeah, okay, dude, whatever. Like,
yeah.
you just have to be the one to be right, you know?
Yeah. Definitely. Well, I'm glad you got out. How was your rebuilding phase? Because we talked about Brittany's a little bit, and she said that like she used journaling to kind of help her and definitely set some boundaries. Was yours similar or was yours a little different?
Honestly, I'm still kind of rebuilding. I don't journal because I don't like to think about that. It's like in the past, you know, I'm like trying to move forward. But there's some instances that have come up that have been like, oh my gosh, this just reminded me of when I used to work there and I don't like it.
Right.
So maybe I should journal or do therapy or do something like that, but I just haven't really, because I'm the type of person that once it's done, it's done. Like, forget about it, move on. But there's definitely some PTSD there.
Yeah. And you can always, you know, even if you don't like journaling, that's fine, but you could definitely, you know, put the, you know, like I always say to my friends, because sometimes I get people want to ask me for relationship advice, and I always say, have your prerequisites. What are your prerequisites before they can even date you? They have to have a spreadsheet of bam, 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 bam. Okay. Before you even go in that direction. If they're not hitting all those marks, then don't even go on a date with them. And I think that should be the same with the job as well. You know, as anything that you are going to devote time to and anything that you're going to potentially stay with or continue to grow with, you definitely have to have prerequisites where you know this is what I need before I give part of my time to this relationship. If it's business, if it's whatever, love, whatever, you definitely need, I call them prerequisites, but you know, I guess boundaries as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to the point now where Brittany and I, like, we'll talk about like a potential client and we'll be like, look, I don't think I can work with them. And that's totally fine. Good. Like, right. That's great, because that we're able to communicate that. And like, we understand that we both had some like trauma with working for people or working with like people who have narcissistic traits. And it's so great now because we can pick and choose who we want to work with. So.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. That's amazing. Can you guys let everybody know a couple tidbits that you would give if they felt that they have a narcissistic boss or is in maybe a very toxic work environment? what would you tell them?
Yeah. So here's the thing about narcissistic bosses is that they will not change. Like I was the type
Mm-hmm.
of person that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thought like maybe if I acted a certain way, he'll change. That's
Mm-hmm.
not the case. They will never change. They will always be like that until they go out and notice this about themselves and seek the help that they need. It's just not going to happen. So, my
Mm-hmm.
tip is to leave. If you are in a situation like that, you get up, pack up, leave. Do not stay. Do not stay long because at the end of the day, it's not going to do any good for you. It doesn't. The money doesn't matter. The position doesn't matter. All that matters is your mental health
Right.
and
Yes.
your,
Yes.
yeah, like that's literally the only thing that matters. So if you are in a situation like that, get up, pack your stuff, leave, find something else. Even if it's a
Mm-hmm.
position that you don't want, it's going to be so much better in a better work environment.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely will. And how have you grown from this situation? Would you say that you've seen in you the growth that you've seen have come from this situation?
Yeah, so is that for me or Brittany or?
Both. Like you could answer and then Brittany can answer.
Okay. So I now know like my worth, my value. I know what I'm gonna put up with and what I'm not. Um, that's that's pretty much it. I feel like that's really what I learned is like to never put yourself in a situation or stay in a situation that is not
Mm-hmm.
serving you.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think now I am way more aware, and I think I try to pay attention to those signs right off the bat now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I keep saying it, but boundaries, like how important my boundaries are. And I second what Amy says, knowing what I'm capable of and not letting someone else tell me that I'm not capable of it, or letting someone else try to dictate how I feel or what I'm gonna do.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Well, this topic has been amazing. And I know it's not necessarily what you guys are known for. Can you please let people know how to find you and give a little resource on your business and what you actually do? And if they want to find you, how can they do that?
Yeah, so well, you can find us on Instagram. We're at Strategy Maven. Also, check out our website, www.strategymavenagency.com. So, we are a digital marketing agency and we help brands with their organic growth strategies. So, whether that's social or email marketing or even SEO, that is what we do. That is what we love. Please don't come to us if you're a narcissist.
Yeah, no narcissist allowed. Yeah. Love it. Well, thank you so much for being on Chakras and Cuss Words. And I hope you ladies have an amazing day and we will definitely keep in touch. And thank you so much and have a great
Yeah,
day,
thanks for
everybody.
having.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.